You are listening to Let Him Cook. I'm Dylan Coon, joined as always with Nigel Dyson. We got some transfer portal talk. We just finished the second weekend of the March Madness tournament. We've got the Final Four, all one seeds. Nigel's Dookie Blue Devils are still alive. Obviously, I think top of mind in the college basketball world. Well, it's so weird. One thing that I think they absolutely need to do is not open the transfer portal until the end of the national championship, because as a fan of a team that is no longer in the tournament, I am much more invested. I'm still excited about the Final Four, but I'm much more invested in the portal right now. Like, I'm constantly on 247 Sports. I'm like refreshing Twitter all the time, like just looking for anyone to go anywhere. It kind of feels like the NBA offseason almost, of when free agency opens up and you got guys just like tweeting out emojis. You got Woj's notifications on. It is truly just like so many like star players are just swapping teams right now. And I am locked in. Where are you at, Nigel? Because you still kind of got a foot in the game. Are you, I mean, I'm guessing you're looking more towards Duke Houston than you are where does, RJ Luis end up in the portal?
Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of those guys are like even testing the NBA waters too. So I really do let the whole Final Four come to a close before I really even start paying attention to it. If obviously Iowa State grabbed 3 guys quick, so looked into them a little bit briefly, but not too much. But like you said, I'm a lot more locked into just Duke and Houston, obviously, because a lot of context. Obviously, Iowa State was not able to beat them this year. Duke beat them last year. It was considered an upset, Sweet 16. So Houston's going to be hungry, but this year I feel like Duke has the better team. But to speak to your other point of how like the transfer portal is affecting the game earlier, and next season earlier even into this season, it's like like you said, free agency, but it's happening during the NBA finals. It's like, right. Let's take a breath real quick, Right. But I think I felt this feeling that you're feeling right now, even a little earlier. I don't know if you even noticed this, but Jay Lucas, son of NBA great, or basketball great, I should say, John Lucas, throws the legendary camps, has been a key piece in a lot of NBA guys' development in the AAU circle. But his son, Jay Lucas, he played at Texas back in the early 2010s, I want to say. Also, younger brother of John Lucas III, the guy that LeBron jumped over and dunked on. He played it for the Bulls for a little bit. All my Illinois people know what I'm talking about. But I say all that to say this. Jay Lucas was an assistant. He was associate head coach for John Shire's staff this year. And after the Carolina game, he accepted the Miami job and essentially had to leave Durham to go to Miami almost immediately, not only to get to meet his new team, but also to just kind of get like acclimated in the transfer portal, because with a team that loses its coach, I think you have to do almost twice the work that one would have to do normally in the transfer portal, kind of how TJ was in his first year. So yeah, I'm feeling it from a very firsthand state. Just because, to be Duke right now, you're a Final Four team, and as are the rest of the number 1 seeds in the tournament. But to lose your associate head coach, I don't know how many teams would bounce back from that, because I know they play such a heavy part in just scouting and overall, defensive philosophy and whatnot, and overall just presence. Like, hearing their voice is comforting to the team. To lose a piece like that this late in the season where you're contending for a title, I mean, that definitely sucks. And that can be definitely weird, but they're definitely a team that has seemed to not missed a beat. In fact, they seem to have gotten better with time. But it's just weird to think about. Like, I sometimes wonder how that would affect us. If we lost Coach Green or J.R. Blount, in the middle of pursuing a championship, say we were still in the dance. I'm curious to see how that would have been. And how that would have affected our guys, and how that would have affected any team really had that happened to. But like you said, the transfer portal just becoming so much of an earlier, kind of spectacle in college basketball is definitely a weird dynamic for sure.
Yeah, and like the other thing too that I think is kind of a weird disadvantage for those teams still alive. And I know like assistant coaches have their responsibilities, and I'm sure they are still reaching out to guys in the portal. But like you have games to scout. Like your season's not over. I feel like it's hard to completely buy into like who's going to be on this roster next year when you don't even really know like what guys are going to transfer from our team yet, because you should still be bought into winning championships. So it's kind of a weird place for these teams still alive of like, okay, who do we need to replace? Are we focusing on the portal? Are we focusing like which assistant coach focuses on what? And even like Iowa State, I think as soon as they lost to Ole Miss, like we had transfers in Ames that next week. So it's like a very quick, super quick turnaround of like, you need to, as soon as the clock strikes 0, you got to get in the portal. So it's a weird time. I do want to talk about one that I'm really sad that we missed on. Part of that is for the people that don't know, I did a semester at South Dakota State, a semester of college, and then I entered the transfer portal and ended up at Iowa State. Oscar Clough, I have watched his highlight tape, and I did watch a couple South Dakota State games this year. Just like a low post, crafty, knows how to use his body. Just like really skilled around the rim, a great rebounder. Again, just like he's not super athletic, but just like has the kind of like the instinct of a great rebounder. One guy that comes to mind, Norchad Omier from Baylor. I think that would be a pretty good comp. Just like he's not going to jump out of the gym, but like is just built like a grown ass man and can move guys around down in the post. And I know he played in the Summit League, and I like he was at Washington State, didn't put up great numbers, yada yada yada. I just think he would have been such a complimentary piece to a guy like Joshua Jefferson, who can find guys wide open in the paint. And his hands, Oscar Clough's hands, I swear to God, they got magnets on them. He catches some really bad like post entry passes. And I feel like it's been a while since we had a post that can just, it sounds simple. And like, I'm not throwing shade. It's harder than it looks, but like to have a guy that can catch a ball, no matter if it's at his ankles, if it's over his head, Oscar Clough is just really good at, controlling the ball and then getting to the rim. He doesn't have a deep bag, but man, it seems like TJ has done so good in the portal that I think some of these other coaches are getting privy to, hey, if Iowa State is targeting a guy, probably some smoke to that fire. That guy, I mean, Clough was getting 18 and 12, and he wasn't Summit Player of the Year, but he was first team All Summit. South Dakota State was one of the best teams in the league this year. So it doesn't take a genius, and especially a guy like Matt Painter, who's just obsessed with big dudes.
18-year-olds over 7'2". Watch out. Matt Painter's coming for you.
Matt Painter already has your number somehow. Yeah. I saw a tweet today, it's from a couple years ago, but it's like there's a guy on Purdue staff that just roams around from village to village asking if they've heard of giants. Like if there's a giant nearby, and then they give him a scholarship. And like Oscar Clough just minding his business in Australia, just like some guy with a Boilermaker hat on is like, someday you will be a Purdue Boilermaker. So, but I'm just super bummed about this one. It feels like the other thing about Otts and the staff has been they target so few guys that I feel like when you miss on one, it feels like such a big deal because you're only really going out and targeting 5 or 6 guys. So when you miss one, like last year, Javon Hadley, I loved watching him at Louisville this year, and I know I'm going to fall into that same trap of loving watching Oscar Clough at Purdue, even though I kind of hate Purdue. The other wrinkle in this, Nigel, and then I'll give you the floor on what you think of Clough, is Iowa State will play at Purdue next year in that non-conference game, so we will have a matchup. And, I mean, Blake Buchanan was kind of the – I don't want to say plan B because I think we could have got Buchanan and Clough. Those two guys – I mean, they'll be guarding each other next, I think, November, maybe December. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember we talked about does Iowa State need in the portal?
Yeah.
And I mentioned we need a good old Michael Jacobson, and damn it, was I right? We got one in Jaden Buchanan.
Yeah,
almost
Blake Buchanan.
Blake Buchanan. I know a Jaden Buchanan, so that's why I said that he went to Iowa State as well. So I'm too caught up in Cyclones. So shout out to my boy Jaden Buchanan. But no, yeah, I briefly, in just the times that they played Duke, saw what he was able to bring to the table. I know Virginia kind of struggled this year, but again, just that kind of gritty 5-man that can start, could come off the bench, depends on the matchup. I think this is a good addition. It definitely brings a bit more of an athlete than maybe a Chatfield was.
Yeah.
So if he can kind of fill that void, but also bring a little bit more to the table, I'm okay with that. But yeah, overall, obviously I know this probably wasn't, priority number one, but I'm glad we were able to lock him down because it definitely was a decent name in the portal. So obviously, hopefully, and again, I'm not saying, when I say decent, I'm not thinking like the kid's going to be terrible. If he can play better than I think what I assume he's going to bring to our team next year, great. I'm not going to be mad at that. But yeah, just think overall going to be able to add kind of a glue guy factor to us next year, which I feel like we never can lack at the end of the day if we want to compete for championships. But overall, decent pickup. I would like to see if we can make some more motion happen. But again, I think a lot of people are just waiting for overall just the season to be over so the dust can kind of settle, because right now a lot of people are kind of just all in on the Final Four, not just the teams that are there and the fan bases that are there, but also too just basketball fans. I mean, as much as we love to see the upsets make the Elite Eight and the Final Four and all that good stuff, sometimes it's just refreshing to see the best teams reach the pinnacle and just duke it out for the top spot. So I'm happy to see that we're able to witness that. But I think early on, it's a good pickup for TJ and his staff. Just really mad we missed out on Clough. But at the end of the day, if someone's going to beat us with recruiting a 5-man, it's probably going to be Purdue.
Yeah,
they got the bullets to back it up.
Yeah, good track record there with centers over in East Lafayette. But the one thing I want to ask you, and I think this does come down to kind of coaching philosophy, and in the past, it has worked well for TJ. This is kind of the first year. We still have one scholarship left, or maybe two. It depends on the kid Kelderman if he's getting a scholarship. It feels like TJ goes out and gets kind of known commodities really early. We got through 3 scholarships in a week. Now we kind of have 1, maybe 2 to play with. The thing that, every day, I'm pretty tapped into the portal. We are getting 50 to 100 guys entering the portal every single day and have been for the last 10 days. So, and there's going to be a caliber of player, even if it's not the guy, there's going to be somebody like him a week from now that is still in the portal without a home. Yeah. So do you think it's worth going out and getting these guys early and then kind of focusing on the big fish like an Oscar Clough or like whoever is next to come? Or would you kind of wait and see until, let's see who actually does end up entering the portal? The one last year, Arthur Kaluma, who ended up at Texas, started his career at Creighton and then Kansas State and now at Texas. Kaluma would have been a great fit. And I think kind of what you were talking about Buchanan, what I like about him is he can move. He can, I think Deshaun and Chatfield were kind of similarly built guys. And I think teams started to realize we had a hard time switching. If you put Chatfield or Deshaun Jackson out on the perimeter on a switch ball screen, it's going to be tough. And, hopefully the rotations with Buchanan are a little bit quicker. But Kaluma would have been such a great fit in switchability and defense and getting in passing lanes. Do you think it's worth getting those guys early, or would you like to kind of hold on to some scholarships so when someone who you might not have expected at the start of the portal to enter is there, you still have a scholarship waiting?
I think it doesn't hurt to stay active always. As a full-time recruiter now, I've kind of been able to see how the philosophy overall of just acquiring talent, when you break it down and only look at it as doing that, I think you always want to stay aggressive and stay persistent, no matter, who the individual is. Obviously, when you're kind of out of a race, like, for example, I know like when Alabama was playing Duke this week, they were like, oh, did you they asked Nate Oates, did you have any, were you in the race for Cooper Flag at any point? And someone of his caliber at a, five-star university with all the money in the world said, we knew we weren't going to get him. So I think sometimes in the transport, you just know when recruiting, sometimes you just know when someone's just out of your league. Right. But I think, a team like Iowa State, it's never going to hurt to be aggressive. So I feel like if they find someone, whether it be now or in 2 weeks, that fits the team identity, I would like our coaching staff to continue to be aggressive at the end of the day. Like for instance, right now, I would love to tap into, really want to say his name right, excuse me. But Flory from Kansas, what's his last name? Badunga. Yeah. Gotta. He had some decent minutes for the Jayhawks this year, when having to back up Dickinson, which I know is not always the easiest spot for a freshman. But I really like his ceiling. And I think, despite him being a former Jayhawk, I think he could really help out this team and be a really good replacement for a Deshaun Jackson at the end of the day. But yeah, I think someone like that would be a good person to be at least aggressive to, because I know, coming from Kansas, you're probably looking for money at the end of the day. Right. I don't know if we can compete with every program in the country, but I know Iowa State doesn't have any. It's not like, oh, we don't have anything, So if it's going to take that, let's think about it. If we only got one scholarship left, that might be one that, would be a good replacement for not getting Oscar Clough, but also, again, trying to replace Deshaun Jackson as much as possible from a size perspective, because Buchanan's great, but again, we're looking at starting probably a 6'9", 5", and we become, a mismatch for a lot of teams going into next season. So I don't want that to be our ceiling when it comes to our bigs at the end of the day.
Yeah, and there has been kind of a wide array, and Nigel, I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter too. Some fans are like acting like this is the worst portal class in, the school's history, and then there's other fans that are kind of being the positivity police, and that shit annoys me too. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think obviously the staff wanted Oscar Clough, and they went after him hard, and they didn't get him, and that does suck. And I think too, we kind of forget when we signed Joshua Jefferson was a big deal. When we got him, I knew he was coming off an injury, but I was like, that guy is really good. And that was a big get. And then Keyshawn felt like, that makes sense. TJ recruited him. He went to UNLV, and now he's just kind of following the coach that recruited him out of high school. And then Curtis Jones was kind of an unknown commodity. And even early in Curtis's career at Iowa State, he didn't look like he was going to be the Curtis Jones that we ended up knowing. So what I'm kind of trying to say is Iowa State has done a really good job, and I think at some point you do have to trust the staff of they are able to kind of evaluate talent in ways that you or the average fan can't. And like that's not to say that we're not trying to get guys like Oscar Clough, and I know money is part of it, and I know these guys are getting a shit ton of money, and that's a whole other ordeal. But I think you have to give this staff some grace. And if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. And then if you want to go and march on Twitter and say, I called it, feel free. But let's see these guys get to campus and put in some work. And then the other thing I want to kind of allude to or caveat is not all these guys can play. Like JT Rock transferred, Caden Fish transferred. A lot of guys that didn't get a whole lot of minutes transferred. And at the end of the day, they had scholarships that need to be filled. You're not going to play 13 scholarship guys no matter what team you are. So don't look at some of these guys as if they're going to be getting 35 minutes a game. And that's another thing that I think is to be sorted out this summer is how good are the freshmen? Can Jamarian Bateman or Killian Toure or Plita from Germany, can they, make an immediate impact? And, you kind of hope so at this point, because I'm not sure if we have the firepower to replace Keyshawn or Curtis in the portal so far. I think we've got some good pieces. We've obviously gotten scholarships left, but we've seen TJ start freshman and kind of say, hey, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be pretty. But I think Taman and Milan both became better basketball players because they did start as freshmen and kind of had to take their lumps. Taman did not always look comfortable his freshman year, and neither did Momcilovic. So even if, a guy like Jamarian Bateman's not ready right away, if you throw him in and start and kind of say, here's all this open space in front of you, figure it out, sink or swim kind of a thing, I'm not opposed to that. And one thing I kind of want to ask you, with the, Eastern Washington, Mason Williams, you got Nate Heisey, you got Jamarian Bateman, you got Killian Toure. I'm really curious to see who starts at 2 guard next year, because I think kind of everybody else, there is still a little bit of question about who's going to start at the 5. But, Taman, Milan, and Jefferson are starting. Do you kind of have a preference there at 2 guard? We've seen Heisey start for this team due to injury this season, so he's obviously capable. But, is that what you would like to see next fall, is him at the 2, Heisey at the 2?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, dude. Yeah. I really don't know. It almost seems
I want to know how good Bateman is. He looks incredible in Wisconsin high school basketball. He looks like a transcendent basketball player, but there is a obviously pretty big leap from, Wisconsin high school to D1 basketball.
No, yeah, for sure. But again, we've had some about the Wisconsin kids specifically, when you think about just Halliburton and Momcilovic and even Hunter specifically, being freshmen, coming in, kind of baby-faced assassins, and just like you said, having to figure it out. I think it's definitely possible. I don't know. I'm not opposed. I'm never going to be opposed to, the older guys coming off the bench and kind of doing cleanup, just because I think, at the end of the day, that was kind of, Heisey's vision, or TJ's vision for Heisey when he initially recruited him, was obviously he's probably not going to start over Keyshawn or Curtis, even when Curtis came off the bench, still wasn't, in that starting lineup. I think he still just knew, we just need a spark glue guy off the bench who can defend, potentially shoot threes, and score when needed to. I don't want to necessarily try to, kind of out of nowhere, just, escalate Heisey's role. I want him to kind of still be comfortable in what he does, and just really perfect that. Cause I think, the best teams in the country always have guys that perfect their specific roles. So I don't know if growth is always the best, I guess, way to go when it comes to this team specifically. I think TJ's probably leaving it up to, let's find out in the summer, when we're doing drills and we're doing, the mile run at 5 a.m. I think he's going to leave it up to, because it seems like in that position alone, we just have a lot of depth now. So it's a matter of, who wants it more. Let's figure it out. Just who's going to show me some fight for that starting spot, and we can figure the rest out later. But I don't know if I want to come out and say immediately, yes, I want Nate Heisey starting at the 2, just because I saw how in spurts how good he was coming off the bench. I don't know if you want to switch up his role in his last year. That might kind of throw him through a mental kind of fluke that we're not trying to have him go into, especially his last year, because I feel like as a senior you already kind of feel a lot of pressure on yourself to succeed, so definitely want to just keep his job as easy as possible. So to answer your question, probably not. I do want to see how good the freshmen are, though, in real time. So for once, I would love to be able to see an off-season scrimmage. I know we talked. We always get word to mouth. Oh, we beat Creighton in a locked up scrimmage. Nobody saw it, but it happened. And it's like, dude, pull out a camera, please. It feels like the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game. Please send a video. But I would love to see just a quick little scrimmage of that nature, just to see what people are bringing to the floor in a game flow setting. So would love for the team to be able to release something of that nature this summer, because I know the fans would definitely eat that up, but also too, it would give us sickos just a better gauge of, what this team's gonna look like long term. But again, we're not even halfway through the transfer portal season. I don't really have one more. You said one more scholarship left?
It depends on, and Chris and Brent didn't know what the situation was. So if those two don't know, then nobody knows. So, I mean, whether or not Cade Kelderman gets a scholarship, if he does, then we have one left. If he continues to be a PWO, then we have 2 open scholarships.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, I don't know. I think you just try to do your best to find a good starting 5. Because if we can have Buchanan coming off the bench, I feel like we're in pretty good shape. Like, it's a matter of just finding one more piece at the 5. And then, honestly, I would say he's earned it. Almost like a Christopherson type of role. I could see Cade Kelderman long term, playing in a role of that nature. So definitely want to. I don't want to throw that under the bus as if he's been undeserving, because the kid's worked his butt off. He's able to make some big plays in March Madness on the biggest stage. So yeah, I'd much rather give a scholarship to a kid who's not afraid of the moment as opposed to someone who's money hunting. But I think if you're gonna give someone money in the off season, it's got to be probably replacing that 5 spot and just trying your best to add some depth at that position, because that's definitely something we're lacking right now.
Like, the whole Virginia team is in the portal. Like, and that's kind of the screwed up thing too. When Tony Bennett, I don't want to say quit on his team, but he did retire, like, I don't know, 2 weeks before the season started. And now the whole Virginia team is like in the portal because they were playing for a coach that they didn't sign up to play for. So, but that being said, along with Blake Buchanan, who, again, kind of with you, I think he would be a great, big man off the bench. I think he would excel in that role. I think if needed, he could be a starter, but his teammate, Andrew Rohde, and just like watching film, like watching Blake Buchanan's highlights or watching Andrew Rohde's highlights, those 2 guys are like kind of inseparable in their highlight. Like, I think they kind of already have a 2-man game. And kind of like, I was even thinking like Milan Momcilovic and Joshua Jefferson kind of towards the end of the year kind of developed a nasty 2-man game where they just play inside out. Like, I think you could get that out of Rohde and Buchanan as well if Iowa State chooses. And I know you're kind of saying we got to beef up the front court. One thing that kind of hit me is Tamin Lipsey has never had a backup point guard his entire time at Iowa State. We have never had kind of a secondary ball handler to initiate the offense, whether that means he comes off the bench and is literally a backup point guard or just like another guard out there that can kind of start the offense. Like, Keyshawn was probably the closest thing, but I wouldn't call him a true point guard, even though he could kind of handle the ball and get down to the rim when he was healthy. So I think that would be big for Tamin in terms of just like preserving his body, because I feel like every time we get to mid-February and it's like that guy's got a cast, he's got a brace, he's got shoulder tape, he's got like that guy, he's going to play through whatever. Like, that guy could have 2 limbs and he would be out there playing basketball. But at some point you do want to preserve him so he is at 95% instead of 75% by the time March rolls around. And I think Rohde's a guy that can kind of take some of that weight off of his shoulders. So I think either a kind of point guard-ish, and Rohde's pretty big. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6". But if you look at his film, he is, constantly has the ball in his hand. And then, or another big man. Like, I'm right there with you. And that's why if you got 2 scholarships, I think you need to use them at this point. If you get Oscar Clough, that's one thing. I really think you need to kind of flesh out the rest of this roster with those 2 scholarship spots that you have. I just think that would go so far in terms of depth. And we just saw a season where it kind of felt like we needed to be fully healthy in order to be as good of a team as we needed to. So I think really fleshing out the front court especially, because, you lost Deshaun Jackson and Brant Chatfield. You lost 2 of your big guys right there. So I think you need to get 2 big guys back.
What about Day-Day Ames?
Again, another Virginia guy that's in the portal. That whole team is in the portal, I swear to God.
But talk about,
NIL. Come on.
Another ball handler, I don't know. Seems like it's kind of the proof is in the pudding. It seems like destiny. He's a Chicago guard, scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Midwest kid.
I think that'd be right up TJ's alley. I don't know. I don't hate that. I'm more big on him than I would be with Rohde. That's for sure. Also, Isaac McNeely would love to see.
Yeah, I think that guy's about to get MF and paid, though. I think I mean, he's going to be one of the top dollar guards in the portal, I think.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's something about them like swole ass white boys.
Yeah. High dollar.
Coaches see those guys and are like, you get over here. Like it's like kids who resemble that Corey Kispert, Christian Braun type build. Oh,
remember Matt Mooney at Texas Tech?
Yes.
Another guy kind of like that.
6'5" killer, wore 2 wristbands. Like, just filthy. Wasn't a big fan of that Tech team, but that's for other reasons.
This is okay. We need to bring this up because in the group chat, Nigel has been slandering some of the most entertaining, fun to watch basketball teams in the tournament. You didn't like this year's Texas Tech team, which they rocked. I don't know how you dislike that team. Darian Williams, JT Toppin, Elijah Hawkins moves like lightning. Like we beat that team. It was probably the best win of the season for Iowa State because they ended up being an Elite Eight team, one of the best teams in the Big 12. How and why can you dislike Texas Tech? The other one is St. John's, crazy. Slick Rick, white suit, the Mecca.
Again, I didn't like. First of all, I didn't like St. John's. It wasn't because of like the kids themselves. It was because everyone started talking about Pitino, Coach K. I don't know, man. It's more of an argument now. No, it isn't. It never was. It never will be. I don't think people understand. It took Kevin Ware breaking his leg in 3 pieces for Pitino to beat Coach K for the second time in his career. I just want to put that out there. But that's still, I just want to give people context as to why I was getting irritated of people saying St. John's was the best thing since sliced bread. I had more of a vendetta against Texas Tech because I came in with the logic of, look, we had a disappointing season and we figured out a way to beat Texas Tech on their home floor.
Sure.
How are these tournament teams that are making deep runs too? There's another team making it to the Sweet 16 as well. How are you also not figuring it out? Also, I don't give too much credit to them beating Arkansas because Arkansas was a great team. Like, they didn't have the best start to conference play. That's why they got kind of hosed in seeding. But on paper, you got some... You got a March Madness legend in John L. Davis, okay? Yeah. You got DJ Wagner, who's a killer. You got Brazil, who's a killer. You got, what's the number 3?
Big Z.
Big Z, but who's the other kid? He was from Kentucky, number 3. Thero? Is that his name?
Yeah, he had some injury problems down the stretch. But
they had some dudes. People are acting like I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of them. And I wasn't big on people being outraged that for the first time in maybe, 7 years, man, probably, honestly, I haven't seen this many 1 seeds in the Final Four since 2016.
2008 was the last time they were all 1 seeds, which, by the way, is the first Final Four I remember. Right. I remember Derrick Rose playing Mario Chalmers in the national championship.
Yeah, but I'm talking about recent memory, Final Four. You remember seeing multiple 1 seeds.
Yeah.
We got to go back all the way to Villanova, which I think they were a 2 seed. North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Oregon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right?
Because Villanova beat the crap out of Oklahoma. I remember that. I don't remember who North Carolina played.
No, North Carolina played Oregon in 2017. Who did they play? Who was the 4th team in 2016 in the Final Four?
I'm not your guy. Aiden, can you get some research? 2016 Final Four. I do remember that Villanova Oklahoma game
because it was Oregon.
You probably hated that Oklahoma team too, didn't you? You probably hated Buddy Hield.
I liked Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield.
All right.
And again, it varies. I loved Carson Edwards in that Purdue team.
Yeah.
But again, personnel matters. I don't know. There's just some teams I'm just like, I see who you're trying to be, but you're not that guy. So let's calm down.
Who we got?
Syracuse. Malachi Richardson. Oh my God. I remember they beat Gonzaga in the Elite Eight in Chicago. That was a great game. Oh my God. Wow. I was way off. Yeah.
Nigel,
this made the 2017 Final Four.
This is a hell of a stray for Jim Boeheim to catch. He killed a man. People don't talk about that enough.
I love how casually you just said that. Yeah, no, I'm not. Hey, I'm not. That's not an argument. My argument is I didn't like how people essentially were mad at the fact that good teams were doing good team shit and winning games in the biggest tournament of the year. Like, I don't know, man. It's a little refreshing. As much as it is refreshing to see a Loyola Chicago make the 2018 Final Four, it's a little refreshing to see just all of the best teams do what they're supposed to do. Because it got to a point where almost the upsets were getting too predictable. Like, at some point, you knew somebody's upset was going to be right.
Like, for a couple of years, you could just pick against Kentucky and Purdue and be pretty confident that you'd be right.
And you'd be right.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, the money I could have made if I had a time machine off of Kentucky and Purdue's downfall. St. Peter's.
Yeah.
Let's be so serious. The 8-seeded North Carolina Tar Heels would not have been in the Final Four to beat Coach K to end his career had it not been for the St. Peter's Peacocks. Okay. That was the Elite Eight game. North Carolina, who's a blue blood. All right. They had a down year, but they're still a blue blood against St. Peter's. It was so unserious. And I just hate how, like, the casual college basketball fan, someone who's not really tapped in like they say they are on a year in, year out basis, can say those years were better. They weren't. Right. You just missed the good old days.
Or at least, like, the quality of basketball. And I was talking to Aiden before the show, is like, I knew probably, well, like, some of the Big 12 teams, I know almost every player on their team, but like almost every team from the Sweet 16 on, I could name 3 to 4 players on every single team. Yeah. They were just kind of the best teams. There was a couple surprises, but like, they were the teams that were good all year. And we had some great matchups because of it. I think we're going to have 2 amazing Final Four games and a great championship, regardless of what happens, because you have, like, I think you sent the graphic. It's like 4 of the top 15 teams since the year 2000, like, in terms of KenPom. Like, all 4 of the final teams are higher than a 35 plus rating. Some years there's 0 teams that are good. And to have like 4 of them and all 4 of them still be alive, and I can realistically see any of them winning the championship. Like, I'm like, the ball rolls one way, I can see any of them winning it. Like, I don't think anybody is like kind of undermanned. Like, I don't know. I'm really intrigued. I'm usually tapped out by this time of the year. Like I said, I'm like usually just like tunnel vision, transfer portal by this time of the year. I'm really excited to watch the games on Saturday and then the championship on Monday.
Yeah. And I that was my whole point, is just like, I don't think people understand how, like, what good basketball we have in front of us right now. Yeah. And if you're mad that, you know, High Point didn't make the Elite Eight, tough.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your bracket if that's like the sexy pick you made, but if you're and again, if you're only watching this tournament for your bracket, screw off. We don't. You have you have lost your office pool or won it by now. So like, just root for good basketball.
And it's like I was in a corporate office from the first day of the season to now. There was a plethora of individuals who didn't say diddly squat about games all year, and then Selection Sunday comes around. All of a sudden, everybody's John Rothstein. They got all their picks ready. They think they got all the answers. You don't have all the answers, Sway. You don't got them. Okay, and it's just so irritating because it's like in other years, it's never been more obvious, you know, who is and who is not a casual. The actual basketball fans, no matter if you like these 4 teams or not, you're happy with this result because you're going to see some high quality games. And as a fan, I'm terrified, but also as a fan, I'm more and more pumped up each and every day. But yeah, no, it's going to be amazing. I feel I'm telling myself on the way to work driving, I'm like, this is what it must feel like to, you know, be there in person watching like the 1982 Final Four, Georgetown versus UNC, the 1991 Final Four, UNLV versus Duke. Duke upsets undefeated UNLV with Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon and those boys, and then the Fab Five the next year making the national title. Like, what we're witnessing is special. And I don't want people to take that for granted, because it's going to be here and gone in the blink of an eye. It's only one weekend. And if you really care about basketball, I would cherish it, because it's going to be high quality basketball, like we said.
And just like I was just like kind of running through the games, I feel like all four of the remaining teams have already kind of had like a March moment. You saw like Janai Broome go down. Everybody's like, that's a torn ACL. That guy, like, he's done for the season. Auburn might win this game, but they're screwed. Comes back. And Auburn, the thing about Auburn, I don't like Janai Broome, and I hate Chad Baker-Mazara. Rest of the team, totally cool with. But Janai Broome subs back in.
Something about Miles Kelly, I just want to punch him in the throat. But
really?
Proceed.
Okay. I love Tahad Pettiford. I love Dylan
That kid's just
Cardwell.
annoying. He's good, but it's like, dude, can you go play for Rutgers or something? Jesus Christ.
Pettiford?
Yeah, it's like
that guy's electric.
No, I know he's electric. That's why he's annoying. But I'm like, why couldn't you go to Rutgers or something so we didn't have to worry about you? But anyway, go on.
Walter Clayton hitting one of the craziest step backs against Texas Tech. They were down like 9 or 10 points with 5 minutes left in that game.
They went on a 17-point run.
Mercy.
In 2 minutes.
Incredible. Cinema. And then you got Houston.
Even though their coach is a pedophile, but that's another story for another day.
Allegedly. Houston shut down Tennessee in the first 10 minutes of that game. Just like, I think Tennessee scored 15 points in the first half. That game's over. Yeah. Just like shut them down. Chaz Lanier went, see ya. And then Duke, like you said, the committee kind of put them on a collision course with Jeremy Roach, with Caleb Love, and then the number one offense in the country. And Duke has surpassed everything. So like you're getting to the Final Four, and all of these teams have kind of already had a moment to hang their hat on of like, this is a team of destiny. Like, look at what they did to get here. This is a championship winning team. Like, none of these guys are flukes. None of these guys are frauds. It is like incredible basketball. Yeah.
No, it's something we've never seen before. Like from a number standpoint, where so many people are so efficient in both defense and offense.
That's the other. All four teams, sorry to interrupt. All four teams top 10 in offense and defense on KenPom right now.
Yeah,
I'm almost certain that has never happened ever.
It's like
probably never will.
4 teams with 99 overalls. Just going to the same tournament. It's like, okay, anything can happen. All right, let's go. Let's get it. And again, I've argued Dylan this on multiple occasions. I just want to be able to argue it to our fans. It is a lot harder to be a fan of a team with constant expectation than it is to be an Iowa State fan. I understand we come through a lot of bad luck. We come through a lot of just, bad draws, bad bracket placements, things of that nature, bad injuries come tournament time and postseason play. And I get it. That all plays into you not being able to compete for a national championship. But to have a Tyrese Halliburton every year, like some of these blue blood schools do, and most of the time they don't get it done, I think that is a harder thing to do at the end of the day. And it just makes the tournament a lot more stressful, where as opposed to now, when every good team does their job and makes it to the promised land, now if you lose in the Final Four, it's not a bad loss. Like, you can kind of walk away from the season and feel okay. It's not, Kentucky losing to Wofford. It's a real matchup. Now say I know a few of the teams that's still in play right now got a little close to being knocked off with Florida. Florida honestly is the most fraud-esque team. The standing, just because of the Tech game. Like the run was impressive, but the fact that they were really giving it to you, had Tech not pissed on their leg.
Good. Like Tech's a really good team.
I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying had they not, pissed the lead away, they're in the Final Four. And then talk about UConn, as much crap as we threw their way this season, they hung in there with Florida the whole time, gave them a run for their money in the second round. So I don't know. Like, I just feel like these number one seeds, you tend to not have as fun of a time because, you know, everyone's trying to beat you. You have this huge target on your back, and they've seen it done in recent history, so it gives them even more confidence. I think just overall, it makes, their jobs as athletes harder, but also too makes it takes probably 5 to 10 years off the fans' lives. I mean, good God, you're not trying to lose to a 9 seed. You're trying to make it to the promised land. So if you do lose, it's a respectable loss. And for the first time in forever, it seems like definitely I'm speaking from my personal experiences, Duke is finally in a position where they're in a situation where if they do lose, it's not a bad loss. Like, even when they made the Final Four 3 years ago, that UNC loss was a bad loss because they were an 8 seed. The loss to NC State was a bad loss because they were an 11 seed. So I think that's also the annoying part of the parity is at some point you too can be a victim if you do root for a good team, a consistently good team. So I think that's definitely a challenge, I should say. But it just seems like this year, for the first time, if you're a fan of any of these number one seeds, if you lose, I think you have a lot to look back on and say, man, that was a fun season.
Yeah, I am going to push back as naturally because I could almost feel the collective eye roll when you said it's harder to be a Duke fan than it is to be an Iowa State fan. It boils down to, for Duke, it's a question of when. For Iowa State, it's a question of if. Duke, they're going to be back. If they don't win the Final Four, you're fine. You got the Boozer twins coming next year. You have some, generational guy 5 years from now. You're Duke. You're always going to be Duke. Iowa State, it's like, we need some shit to go right, or other schools for things to go wrong. Like, Iowa State is a school, a program, a good basketball program, but they kind of operate on windows. Like, there will be a window in time where, and I think we're in one right now, thankfully, where we're really good. And there's going to be a window in the future where it's pretty bleak. And you just kind of ride this roller coaster as an Iowa State fan. So, like, when you're in these windows, like we are right now, every tournament is like, please God, like, I don't know how much longer we have left. Like, we need to win right now because I don't know what's coming next year. I mean, like, Fred Hoiberg is like the best example I have. Like, mid-2010s, I was like, oh my God, we're going to be good at basketball for the rest of my life. This is awesome. You lose to UAB, and he's the coach of the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
And then you hire Steve Prohm.
And don't get me wrong.
Duke is never going to hire Steve Prohm. That's kind of the part of it too.
I understand that, but I want to bring up 2 points. Think about what you just said of how we're not able to bring up, like, essentially the windows matter, but when a window never closes, when you do screw up, you look even worse.
But you got championship.
You hear what I'm saying?
You've been to the mountaintop.
I'm not saying they haven't, but again, I also too, it brings me to another point about Shire as well, but I just think overall it tends to be a little harder. Like, I think, even when we feel like as fans, we can tell when our window is here and when it's not. The outside people can't. So when we do lose, it's like, oh, Iowa State lost, and people just kind of move on with their day. Like, no one cares. But when these big teams lose, it's like, not only do you feel that in the moment, but you hear it after, and you keep reliving it. And March Madness, the actual social media account doesn't help because they say, on this day, Michigan State and Matt McQuaid beat Zion. I'm like, oh my God. If you're a fan of those teams, you already know. You already know the day, the anniversary's coming up. You don't need a reminder on your phone. So the fact that they do that, I hate those accounts for doing that. But I also, too, want to give Shire his flowers because I looked over succession rates of historic coaches, and the success rate to right after is never as good as Shire has been. So I want to give him his flowers. He's an Illinois kid. He's a suburban Illinois kid. So I got a special place in my heart for him because I really resonate with that. Yeah. Pat Bev giving him his flowers. Like, I just feel like that's an easy guy to root for. And I know, Duke has not always had the best track record of people that, make you want to really push for them and hope for their success. But I think Shire's attitude has been rather contagious on this team. And I think if you're going to root for any Duke team, this is the one to do. because I don't see a Christian Layton or a Grayson Allen or JJ Redick walking through the door anytime soon. I feel like no one embodies that spirit. Which is not a bad thing. Like, I think you can have that competitive edge without tripping people. I think you can have that competitive edge without stomping on somebody's chest. I think you can have that competitive edge without hitting a three and throwing up your hands and taunting the student section. But I say all that to say this. What we're going to see this weekend is going to be some special basketball, and win or lose, at least for my ball club, I'm going to be pretty satisfied with it. Because, again, for the first time in forever, it feels like not only is our season going to end, but like that loss won't be a bad loss. And for years, it's been like, if we lose this game, it's going to be a bad loss. And I'm just glad we can avoid that for the first time in a while. But fuck that. I want to win the damn national championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Duke as a program will ever be likable, but like you said, I think this is a Duke team that I don't think there's a one player. I will say Con Knipple kind of looks the part, but he doesn't act like.
But he's not. He's not like.
I know.
He's a real lunch pail. Like I'm shocked. TJ was just like he didn't find that kid because it seemed like.
I think he probably again like it's like when they asked Oates about Cooper Flagg. I mean like. Con Knipple is kind of the kid in Wisconsin last year.
No, and I understand that, but like what the origin of how Duke found Con Knipple is so fascinating to where I feel like had our staff just been at the right place at the right time, they could have been able to apply pressure early. But dude, the way Duke found Con Knipple was essentially at a camp. Shire wasn't there. His dad was there just like watching a random tournament.
Sick.
Called John on the phone, was like, I got a guy that you need to come see right now. And he was like, yeah, Dad, whatever. Blew him off. Comes back home, and his dad is just like egging him on, like, hey, you need to go check this kid out. He's right in Milwaukee. No one, like, I feel like he can be like the missing piece to you guys. And my God, was Mr. Shire right? Because he's a bread and butter, like any team could use a Con Knipple. And he's not, like you said, the dislikable guy that a usual Duke team has. He's more so what he looks like Grayson Allen, but he's more of a Luke Kennard.
That's the problem. Yeah.
But he's more of a Luke Kennard.
He's the Luke Kennard of Grayson Allen's. Yes,
you get it. But I say all that to say this. I'm just glad for once, the people are waking up. Everyone, it's kind of I'm glad we've kind of put the Janai Broom, Cooper Flagg discussion to bed. It's a no-brainer at this point. Like, you're comparing a 27-year-old man to a 17-year-old, and they're both playing the same. I'm going to give the edge to the young kid. I'm not going to lie, because his ceiling's higher. But I say all this to say this, man. Houston is not going to be an easy game. I think the advantage of them is going to be, I know off of pick and rolls, they like to trap. That's what they were doing to Tennessee. If they do that to Duke, they're going to be in trouble because the shooting and the mismatches that they provide is like no other team that I think Houston has seen this year. I don't think Houston has played a team with that size. And I think how even Alabama, who's outside of Sears, decently sized, I would say even they looked a little shell-shocked. So when your tallest guy is Roberts at 6'9", 260, like, I don't know how your cards fall. And again, Houston is shooting the ball better this year than last year. But still, I think at the end of the day, they have a ceiling too. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how much their physicality is going to play a part into how they seem to find an edge. But more so with Auburn and Florida, we've already kind of seen Florida take care of business with Auburn. I think it can go two ways. It's going to be real, real close, or it's going to be a 20-point game, Florida. But regardless, I really do feel like with that matchup alone, I feel like Florida just has the edge. I think they have a little bit more from a skill standpoint. Auburn's got a little bit more dog in them, so I don't know if that'll win the fight overall. But again, I feel like as much as want and will plays a part into Final Four victories, also does finesse. I mean, at the end of the day, Final Fours come down to just get the ball to your guards and who's going to do it. And Walter, for a man named, I saw a tweet this weekend. It said, Walter Clayton Jr. is so good at basketball, you forget his name is Walter. And I was like, oh my God, they're right. Because that's a terrible name. That might be top 5 worst name in the English language. However, if you're good at sports, you can make it work. Walter Payton, I don't know. It just seems like he's definitely a one shining moment type of dude, and I think he can put the Auburn Tigers to sleep this year.
Or he just needs to do what Walt Frazier did and just be like, just call me Clyde. Just, screw my first name. Clyde
just
is
call me Escalade. Just something crazy.
I think the Florida Auburn game, I think Florida's guards, like you were talking about John L. Davis. You got Elijah Martin. You got Walter Clayton, who played for Pitino before he went down and played at Florida, his home state. Also, you look at Florida's roster, that whole squad is like...
They got a 7'9" kid not playing.
Yeah. Mercy.
7'9"? Oh, my God.
So I think that one comes down to Florida's guards versus Auburn's front court, which is equally elite. Baker Mazzara, Cardwell, Broom. And then you got on the other side, I know Duke has size. Houston's got physicality. So I think it's kind of like the tall and skinny and skilled versus the big, brute, and ugly. Like I think it's going to be...
Sion James, that boy looked like he could play for Houston. That man is 6'6", 220. Boy is built like Terry Crews from White Chicks, okay? Hey, pull up a picture of Terry Crews, please. I need the people to see who I'm talking about, because I don't know how many people from Iowa have seen the movie White Chicks, but I'm just saying, I like my chances with Houston's backcourt, how physical they like to get. Put Sion James on LJ Cryer. LJ Cryer might have a tough last game of his career. I don't know.
The average age of Houston could babysit the average age of Duke. That's the... Here comes Terry Crews. Just show it. Let's rip this Band-Aid off.
That's Sion James. And then if in your downtime cycle fans, look up a picture of Sion James. They're identical. The only difference is Sion James has dreads. But here's the thing. Duke's bench is old. Like everyone looks at the starting lineup and it's like, oh, they're young. They're starting 3 freshmen, blah, blah, blah. All right. And that's enough, Terry Crews. Thank you. But I mean, they got Mason Gillis coming off the bench, who was at Purdue last year, and again made the pinnacle. I know he's going to be hungry to try to take home a ring this year, and finally get that job done. Because he's been, if there's anyone who's been screwed over multiple times in March Madness, it's been Mason Gillis. He got upset by St. Peter's, and then also
Dickinson. Was he on Purdue for that?
Yes, they lost to FDU, then they lost to UConn in the national championship last year. So this is his last dance. I mean, I know he's going to be hungry, wanting to finally get to that pinnacle that he planned to reach. And then also too, you got Malik Brown, who has been nursing a dislocated shoulder, but again, he's going to get a full week of rest. Hopefully, he can give them some valuable minutes, because I know he's going to be very crucial in that Houston game if he can, pick up guys 90 feet, really disrupt people, because he's 6'10" and he moves like a guard. Yeah. So Shire's got a insanely like super villain-esque like built team where it's just like, dude, I can't catch a break. So I don't know how Houston's gonna, because remind me, how deep is that Sion James for content? Look at those arms. Yes. Look at those arms. That's a point. That's the starting point guard. My God, that kid is the Michael Jacobson of Duke point guards. And it doesn't make sense, but that's how big the kid is. But yeah, big guy. Anyway, I say all that to say this. How deep is Houston, like rotation wise?
Deeper than Iowa State was. I mean, not as deep as Duke, like but 9? Deeper than the average. Yeah, probably 9. I mean, like, I think it's either Malik Wilson or Terrence Arsenault. I'm probably pronouncing that last name wrong. Either one of those guys would be a starter on almost every team in the country. And I think JoJo Tugler might come off the bench too. Or does he start for them?
I'm not sure.
Either way, they've got bodies. I mean, they wouldn't be able to play the way they did if they didn't have depth.
Yeah. The weakness I'm smelling, though, up front is just how they play ball screens. I think that's going to be an issue for them, especially the Khan to Kaman alley-oop that seems borderline unguardable this entire postseason. And then also, too, just the Coop Khan two-man game that they can play off of each other, because it seems to be like either Coop's going to get a wide-open lane where he can finish with two, and then or they find Khan coming off that flare screen after the body screen. But there's a lot of options. And then Proctor, he's shooting, believe it or not, he's shooting the ball. He's made more threes than Walter from Florida, Walter Clayton Jr. So it's a juggernaut. It's a what's the verbiage? Barstool Sports. Oh, Duke is a wagon. They're a wagon. I like that. I think just that overall, when you describe a good basketball team, referring to them as a wagon is just funny. But yeah, no, overall, going to be some really good basketball. I'm anxious and excited, and I don't know, I feel like an eighth grader all over again. So hopefully I can not have to relive 2022, and hopefully they can get to the promised land, but only time will tell.
Yeah, 4 wagons left in the Final Four, or as far as I'm concerned, there are. And to wrap this up with a little Iowa State bow, and I know just being on Cyclone Twitter that there is some pessimism right now about the portal and the transfer class. The one thing I want to remind people, Taman Lipsey, Milan Momcilovic, and Joshua Jefferson, those 3 alone are probably better than, and Nate Heisey, are probably better than, I would say 95% of D1 teams are bringing back. So I think the real, if we get to the day where we are, losing on guys like Oscar Clough to the Purdue's, and we're not retaining talent, that's when I think you have a right to be pessimistic. But as long as we're able to keep, honestly, getting Joshua Jefferson a second year, and that's another thing I forgot to bring up, going for transfers that have multiple years left.
That's huge.
Continues to be a really big point of emphasis for this staff, and I think that's so smart because you're going to get another year of Heisey, another year of Jefferson. If that JUCO weird shit would have, went the other way, we might have got another year of Curtis Jones. So I think that's going to be continued throughout this portal and the ones to come of looking for guys that are sophomores or guys that are overseas that have 3 years of eligibility or 4 years of eligibility. So just relax. Let's wait till summer. Nigel, I'm with you. If they could do an open practice or an open scrimmage, even if it's just like Cardinal versus Gold, just so we can see these freshmen, I want to see Jamarian Bateman in a Cyclone uniform yesterday. I just want to see that guy shoot 42% from 3. So damn bad.
Yeah. Normalize it, bro. I want all teams doing this. I think everyone has proven, hey, we're not the same team we were in November.
Right.
In November, this same Duke team that's in the Final Four, they lost games to both Kansas and Kentucky. So if that isn't a more kind of dead giveaway of, people have gotten better by March, I don't know what is. So I don't think it shows a lot of harm in people knowing your sets in July. How about you execute them to your best ability come November, and then we can take it from there. But yeah, I think we're all for the if you're setting up a scrimmage, send the video, put it on YouTube. Yeah. Doesn't hurt anybody. Come on.
I'm with you. All right.
Thank you.
Final Four. We'll be back next week. We're either going to see a really happy Nigel or a really, really not happy Nigel. So yeah. I'm excited for the basketball games. Nigel, if I'm going to be honest with you, Houston's my favorite team left as just a guy with no true dog in the fight. But again, I'm happy to watch basketball.
That's like you telling me, hey, Nigel, the sky is blue. I knew that, Dylan. I'm sure I'll hear it if for whatever reason, and again, praying to God it doesn't happen, but if Duke does fall to Houston in the semifinal, I'm sure you'll be the first person reaching out to me. So
I'll be the first guy in the group chat.
But hey, I'm not even trying to think about that. I don't want those bad vibes. I just know it's been a long 10 years, and I know Cyclone fans look at me like I'm crazy, and they're like, "Oh, 10 years, that's cute." But
125 over here.
Hey, man, I'm sorry that we haven't touched the Final Four since World War II. If we could change that, I would. Okay, I'd change it in a heartbeat. Yeah. However, that's just not the cards that we were dealt with.
It's so hard being a Duke fan, Nigel. I feel for you.
Hey, man, the last decade they've been quite the laughing stock. It's always something. It's always something. It's from Dylan Brooks to DJ Burns. It never ends. It's always some random, now current NBA role player or kid playing in Europe that just had a out of character day on the right day and only had enough in the tank to take them down. That was it. So it's annoying. I want them to just get over it. I also want people to know that, you know, the whole Shire success was not a fluke. He really has been a vital piece of that program for the last decade. He's been a part in, you know, recruiting since Jabari Parker. And he's played a huge part in just overall continuing the culture and the standard that Coach K set. So obviously just want to see them get to the top once again. And for myself, man, I think about my inner child. Last time they won, I was an 8th grader. A lot's changed since the 8th grade. And I think that would be a bittersweet moment for myself. Because again, I understand people out there don't like Duke. It's been a very lonely life as a Duke fan, as much as I love college basketball. Haven't had a lot of people to share this fandomhood with, so it's going to be a very internal win, so hopefully we can get that win this weekend, but only time will tell, like I said.
Let Duke cook, let Houston cook, let Auburn cook, let Florida cook. I just want good basketball. I want it all right? Cyclones, let's see. I want one big win in the portal. That will make me as happy as Nigel winning the championship.
And again, if we can do both, I mean, why not? You know, I think there's still some motion in the tank, and it's just a matter of playing the waiting game. I think we got to finish the season out first, then have the transfer portal become main priority. But we'll see.
Let them cook. Go Cyclones. Love you guys.